Boy, she let two Karens rent out her rental, and then they flooded her joint, hit her with a couple racial slurs, and then bounced. Oh, I know she
So,
was.
welcome to
Yeah.
season 1, episode 1 of Nightmare Tenants, featuring Caitlin Poor of Atrium Health and her partner Kathleen Kennedy of DHL Logistics. So, my husband and I, we have a rental property, and it's the home that we brought our kids home in from the hospital, and it's the house that we had planned to actually give to one of our children in the future. Our old tenant of 2 years was moving out, and we actually had a great experience with him. Anytime he had a concern, it was always handled and addressed promptly and professionally by my husband. And ultimately, we still have a good relationship now. So this is where we enter Miss Caitlin and Kathleen. They moved in on Super Bowl Sunday, and were only in the property for a week's time. When they moved in, they were informed that there was some paint touch-ups that needed to be completed in the kitchen just due to the removal of the popcorn ceiling. Ultimately, they were unhappy that this didn't happen in the expected timeline, but did express just how grateful they were for my husband's overall communication, especially because they had apparently had a bad experience with a landlord in the past, which should have been foreshadowing maybe. But once they moved in, they had an extremely nitpicky list of demands in their words. They stated that if we did not meet their demands, that they would be moving out. Some of them were a little bit odd. They sent a message stating that they had clogged the toilet with their own human feces and that we would need to take care of it. And that is their wording. And the wording itself kind of just gave me weird vibes. But regardless, their concerns were addressed. They were told that if they wanted to move out, that we would break their lease. But ultimately they were upset that they weren't going to get their February rent back in spite of the fact that they were living there in part of February. And they said that they would consult with legal counsel and get back to us as to whether or not they were going to remain in the property. They proceeded to use racial slurs, including the N-word, at my husband. So ultimately, he had a bad feeling about the tenants, and he stated that he was going to go out there and just do an inspection on Friday to make sure that everything was the way that it was supposed to be. So he went out on Friday, everything was in place, and fast forward to Monday, we get a call from the neighboring unit. We have a great relationship with all of our former neighbors. So they gave us a call, and they informed us that there was water damage in their home that was apparently coming from our unit. So then 2 minutes later, I get a call from my other neighbor. She's not in the neighboring unit, but she gave me a call, and she said that there's something going on at our house. There's water all in the street. She said she thought it was because it was raining, but she noticed that it was coming from all around our property. And so I asked her if our tenants were still there. She said that they left on Saturday morning. She said that a moving truck woke her up, and she said that they had a crew of 20 people, and they were basically hustling to get out of there quick, and so she knew something was going on. So we get in the car and we head to our old rental property, which is about an hour and a half away from where we live, and we get a call from the HOA, and they told us that they suspected that there was foul play. So as we're pulling up to the property, we see water just covering the parking lot. There's water on the outside of our house, water surrounding the property, coming out of the side paneling.
Man, I swear, bro, I would have found these little Catherine and Lollipop, bro. You see what I'm saying? That's why you can't rent to these feminists, man. Yeah, so you just can't rent to these feminists. Look what they did.
The fire alarm is going
Multiple
off.
properties.
We open the door, and there is water everywhere. The entire first and second level is completely covered with water. It's seeping through everything, and basically the ceiling is caving in. So the fire department had to come to shut the alarm off, and they pointed out where Caitlin and Kathleen had actually unscrewed the toilet and damaged the pipe to where they could tell that it was intentionally done. We saw where both of the pipes on both toilets were destroyed, and the water was turned on, so basically it would run and flood the place. So they completely destroyed our home to the point where it is uninhabitable. And not only that, but the neighbor's home is now destroyed. And, me personally, I'm not understanding how anyone could do this to someone's home, especially when my husband was nothing but accommodating and professional with them. And it really honestly just takes it a step further when Caitlin, who works for Atrium as a PA on emergency, would think it was a good idea to create a safety hazard and a fire hazard in a unit attached to other homes where there are children and elderly people living literally next door. And then following the incident, when we called them regarding the flood, they stated that they were not going to talk about it and that they just wanted to return their keys back. So obviously, audacity is running at an all-time high on this Tuesday, and it's in moments like these when I'm reminded that while God is real, demons are too, because this is nothing but demonic behavior to intentionally vandalize someone's home to the point where we can no longer enter the property, let alone have somebody live there. All of the time and the money and the investment is, gone and wasted. This was truly an act of pure evil, and, these two people really need to be held accountable for their actions. And it's truly a shame that anyone could really do something like this. On our end, we have filed a police report. We have contacted their employers. We'll continue to keep you updated as we document the progression of all of this. We've, of course, contacted our lawyers. It's an unfortunate and an unnecessary situation. And while it's a huge hit, we're just trusting in God and remaining positive. And we just ask for your continued prayers during this time. But ultimately, we know that everything will work out for the better. So I hope that your Tuesday is happier than ours is. But that's it for season 1, episode 1. Catch y'all on episode 2.
Absolutely not, man. Flooded out they rental. See? These new feminist type. Nah, man. I'd rather rent out to Derek and Tyrone. Real talk. All they would have been doing is just blowing, packing that joint all day, playing 2K, setting up streaming, sections. That's it. 2 or 3 little birds and creek meats come through. That's all. They wouldn't have flooded you out. Crazy situation. And until further, yeah.